What's happening? We'll hang out for a little bit, eat a sandwich. Maybe we'll talk about the strong dollar theory. Oh, shit. What's happening? Wow, 36 of you guys already. So, I left a link down in the description to an article. Hopefully it's the right link. I just did it real quick, so check it out. Looks like China is into some dollar bonds and looking to get $4 billion worth. Kind of goes against a lot of the people's ideas out there that that the dollar is not valued or not desired by countries out there in the world, and that's obviously just not the case. Well, over in the next 6 months, it's going to be hard to say, especially we got to see what's going to happen with the tapering. I mean, if the tapering actually happens, and then, which it seems to be, I mean, they're putting out enough credible threats and getting the market conditioned to it. Once that happens, I feel that the market will probably start taking on that idea that they're going to be more concerned about investing into these obviously elevated bubbling assets. Deflation, let's see. Sorry, but I don't agree with, oops, what was that? I don't agree with inflation is here to stay. I wish it was asset deflation, but I don't think it's occurring. Yeah, and that's going to be the consensus view pretty much going across the board from everybody you see. And now, of course, if you've watched my videos long enough, you know that I brought up a lot of things like Dr. Lacey Hunt, who is talking about the unproductive debt, and that's what I kind of look at, and I related it down to saws and beers. Like, if you had taken out a bunch of debt and you purchase a bunch of beer, that beer becomes like if you can imagine the beer as like everything in the economy. There's a lot of things that go into beer as far as the production, agriculture, transportation, advertising. There's a lot of stuff that makes this beer happen. But once you consume the beer, that's it, it's over. And if you purchase that beer with debt, now you've got to work and pay back all that past consumption of beer. However, if you had purchased saws instead, like saws for cutting up wood, if you had purchased a bunch of saws and used those saws to manufacture stuff, then you could sell those manufactured items, pay back the debt plus principal, and then be able to grow your economy just off of production. But that's not the case right now. So although we are sitting in a situation in which that this inflation, as far as prices, I feel are going up on account of the supply constraints that are taking place. I mean, just look at every single port across pretty much the entire world right now. It's all clogged with containers. Inside of those containers are all the items that everybody wants. If they are sitting in those containers and not on the shelf, then people are going to pay a higher price as the demand goes up for the product that is not sitting there yet. Now, is there going to come a situation in which the supply chain never recovers? Well, if that's the case, then yeah, I guess you could say that price inflation would stay elevated forever. I mean, I guess that could happen. But if there is a way that the supply chain becomes free again, able to start transporting the goods, what's the easiest way to get product moving? You drop the price. You make 2-for-1 deals. You start selling that stuff and you start moving it out as fast as you possibly can. What else is there? The Black Swan event. I feel, well, I mean, is it Evergrande? Is Evergrande the Black Swan event? I mean, that's really where the contagion thing that people are not quite anticipating how vast that really goes. I mean, everybody's leveraged off of somebody else. And, as the balance sheets become offset, so you got assets and liabilities. And if all your assets, all of a sudden just devalue. Like you had Evergrande bonds. You thought you had 100 cents on the dollar. Now you got 32 cents on the dollar, and your balance sheet is, now off kilter. Your credit rating goes to hell. Trying to get loans, trying to be productive inside of everything that you're doing becomes ever increasingly difficult. And as every company starts to, is leveraged off of the other one, you don't know how far that contagion goes. What I feel is probably going to be even scarier about spreading across the world is that as these companies who are failing try to recover by selling off their assets, how much assets do they have inside of like places like the United States? Like how many of these companies actually own property in the United States that they're going to start selling off in order to cover their losses or cover their creditors if they start to default? I mean, that's like, that could be a very serious question to ask. Hey, thanks for the $10. Human in training. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thanks, my guys. I was just hanging out here, and I haven't done video in a while. Like I said, I've had a lot on my plate here lately, and so trying to get videos done, just even trying to concentrate on what to do for a video has been very difficult lately. So I appreciate the $10, man. It's helped because the YouTube ad revenue has really changed my life, and the last few weeks it's dropped quite a bit. So. But, a few of you guys have helped me out with some PayPal, donations too, and that's just incredible. I mean, I tell you, when I tell my story about the house, it's an incredible one, man. Ultimately, guys, I'm going to hopefully on Thursday sign a deal on a house. That's what's happening. Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be I was almost thinking about doing it in a two-part series talking about like, what happened the first time when I went through foreclosure. And I tell you, that came back to bite me because I don't know what I did during that foreclosure, because pretty much we were in a bad spot. Like I was, I mean, I hate to admit it. You guys all know it, so I don't have a problem with it. But you guys know that I was, drinking quite a bit back in those times, and I don't drink now. I haven't drank for like 5 years or even 6 years. I can't even remember what last time I had a drink. But when that foreclosure happened, something occurred and it disappeared. Like my pre-approval for a loan was like, no problem, man. You got this. Go get one. I have like an 820 credit score. My wife had, this has the same thing. So he was like, okay, how much you got down? He's like, oh man, yeah, you got it. Go get it, man. Go find a house. And I'm like, man, because, ultimately, I guess I'll tell you part of the story now. Why not? So ultimately what happened is that I was desperately trying to find a rental, right? And rentals here in Astoria are they're non-existent, right? There is not going to happen. The ones that are available are incredibly expensive. You can't take your pets, and they're just not big enough. So, what are you going to do? And so I'm looking, right? I'm looking hard for a house to rent. And I realized after about 30 days or so that it's not happening and that I need to find something or I'm going to be screwed, right? Because I got 60 days left until I got to get out. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Let's find more options, right? Open up as many opportunities as you possibly can. Follow the path of least resistance. So I'm opening up opportunities. I found a stupid little trailer out in the middle of nowhere that was way too small, and no way would I ever possibly move the family into. But I secure that one. I'm like, okay, if it comes down to it. And I'm kind of secured a house. They're really, iffy on it. They don't want the pets, and I'm offering them like insane amount of money for a deposit. I'm like, I will pay like a huge deposit if you let me just move in with my dog. And, nobody wanted to. So it's like 35 days or something into it. It's a little after 30 days. And I'm looking at houses now. Like I go and I talk to my buddy, Greg. And I'm like, Greg, take a look at my stuff. Let me know what I approved for. They said, don't go over $499. Like $499,000 is my limit. I will die if I do anything more than that. So he runs the number. He says, yeah, no problem, right? Like I said, so I look, I find one house in the area that I like just one. And I'm like, man, and it's expensive. It's like off the charts, right? Stupid expensive. And so I go and I look at it, and to be honest with you guys, I am like kind of lost. Like I'm not even really paying attention to the house. You know, I walk around it and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's got a garage, and that's garage, you know, that's whatever. Kind of like lost. I'm like, man, am I really buying a house right now? I mean, this is like the height of the market. I mean, it's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an offer in on this house, and it's going to churn, guaranteed, right? So this is what I'm thinking as I'm walking through the house. And so anyway, we kind of walk through the house, check out the rooms, whatever, and it's kind of outdated. I mean, really, but it's really well maintained, like a really well maintained house. So I'm like, okay, cool. We step out the patio door, and I look up, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on right here? The soffit is screwed up. I can see that there's like some kind of rot issue taking place right here. So I run out and I take a look at the roof, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So there was kind of like a condition, a little issue going on with this roof, right? So I pointed out to the real estate agent. She says, yeah, no problem. We'll cover that. You know, we'll talk about that later. And I'm like, okay, because it's not really built properly. Like it's really surprising too, because the construction of this addition, what it was there was a patio addition put onto the house, and the way it was constructed was really well, like carpentry wise, like all the fasteners and cuts and everything was done really well, except for the connection that they made to the house itself, where the water came down and it actually hit a dam up against the roof instead of like rolling from one roof onto the other. It hit this dam, and it caused a little bit of deterioration issues into the soffit, because really this patio cover roof is like, I don't know, maybe just a foot or so onto the eave of the existing house. But nonetheless, I can see that it's like it was improperly done. She says, yeah, no problem. We'll take care of that later. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I don't know how this turned into this instead of the strong dollar, but whatever, you guys like it, right? So anyway, I go home after we looked at this house, and I'm thinking about my options, about like rent and like the places that we have possibly found and not getting, and I'm just like, I'm feeling defeated. Like, I'm like, what am I? There's nothing to do. Like, there's nothing I can possibly do except for pack up all my stuff and bail out of the county, go. I don't have no idea where I would go. Like, I would just have to travel to someplace else. So after just one looking at this house and not really knowing what else to do, thinking, okay, I guess I could just always back out of it or something, whatever. So we put an offer in on that house. And like I said, I just feel defeated, like I'm lost. Like I don't even want to think about it anymore, because I just didn't know what to do anymore at this point. And, you know, it was at this point that I started to like figure things out, because there was that roof issue that was really bothering me. You know, like the house was like a really good, like for everything was good, but that roof issue, and it was really like eating at me. And finally it came time to do the roof, like the adjustment for the roof. And I'm like, okay, well, I want a new roof on that side of the house because it's improperly done, right? And she was like, no, that ain't happening. You're not getting that or whatever. So I started throwing a fit about this dang roof, right? And I'm like, no, like this thing is done improperly. I mean, what I'm facing if I buy this house is I have to replace this entire roof. I want, like, you know, some compensation for it. I mean, it's not in the seller's, like, you know, disclosure, which I could totally understand, because like anybody who's not really like a carpenter or a roofer or something like that may not even have seen it or even looked for it or even recognized that there was a problem, you know? I mean, I had to explain it, you know, several times to try and explain like what was happening. And I did have like a home inspector go out there and say, yeah, it's exactly like I was saying it was. So anyway, I'm pitching a fit about this roof, and that's not going well, right? Like the sellers are like, I don't think there's really anything wrong with the roof, and we're gonna have somebody go out there and slap a couple $100 fix on the thing. And I'm like, no way. No way am I buying this house with a couple $100 fix. That's not the way I'm doing this. So it's kind of going back and forth. All of a sudden, there's a carpenter who's going to put this roof on. We're going to fix this roof. And I'm like, wait a minute here. I don't like the way this is going down. I don't think this guy is going to do the job that I want to see done. I mean, I don't want him to go up there, just put something on the roof that I have to go back and fix anyway. I mean, that's not the way this isn't working, right? And so they're like, okay, well, we need to start compromising on this because they're not going to re-roof that side of the house. I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And she was just like, well, you need to figure it out and figure out what it is that you can live with that is going to be less than that side of the house. And so this is where I start getting very frustrated. I'm going to leave it at that because I got to go back into work. I really hope you guys appreciate me coming out here. And I mean, I really appreciate you guys going out there. I hope you guys come back. I don't know why I said I hope you guys appreciate. I appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with me. And I will give you the rest of the story. We'll leave it at the roof issue because I think that's a good spot to leave it at, because it was from this point on that I woke up to what was happening. And because like at this point I just felt like I was just dazed, like I didn't even care anymore. I was like, fine, I just give up, I don't, whatever, and all of a sudden this roof issue was coming up and I'm just not taking it. And I'm like, nah, man, no. And all of a sudden I woke up and I'm like, man, where am I at? What am I doing? What position am I in? What did I do? And that's when I started really paying attention to what was happening. So, all right, I got to go back into work. Actually, I got to finish my sandwich and go back into work. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know. Actually, here, you guys do that. I'm going to finish the sandwich real quick and then I'll go back into work. So what I can do is I can change the title of this. What do you think? Should I post this video? I can edit it out like all this stuff. I just wanted to leave it in there so you guys can talk for just a minute. But and we can do this every day because where my house is, right now I just go home to eat. But where I'm moving to, and that is if I sign this deal. I mean, I still got I don't know, a couple days yet to sign it, but where my house is, I won't be going home for lunch. So I need something to do on my lunch break. So this might be it, right? Hang out with UE every day. Don't sign it. Where am I going to go? I got to be out by the 30th. Man, I got to be out at the end of October, bro. I know I should get a duplex. There ain't no duplexes to get. Look, man. I was put into a spot. What am I going to do? Right? There was no place to go. There was no place. I mean, I would have to totally disrupt my entire family and bail out of town. Completely leave. And that's not a condo. But again, guys, I don't think you realize how there's no condo. There's no rental. There's no place to go in Astoria. There's nowhere to go. I live in an area. Okay, if you ever want to see gentrification in action, it is right here, right now in Astoria, Oregon. It is obviously taking place. The rich people are moving in and forcing the crappy people out. And I was this close. In fact, I don't even know yet. I may still end up, not signing this deal. I need to change the title of this video. It's obviously not just strong dollar talk, is it? Do I know any of the Goonies? No, but actually I can almost see the Goonies house from where I'm at. Oh, here we go. I'm going to say this. I'm going to read this one letter to you guys, this email. And then I definitely got to go because I'm already starting to push it and I'm going to be late. Okay, here, I'm going to read this email to you that I got the other day. I'm not going to say who it's from. I just want you to just hear this. It goes, I was there when you were under 1,000 subscribers, but not, but I think he said not, but I think he meant now. But now you have obviously become a bootlicker. Enjoy your blood money from the YouTube. Hundreds, thousands of us are losing our jobs standing for the truth, including me. You're a sellout. I almost sent you an ounce of silver. Mail, glad I hesitated. And by the way, because of me, you got like 20 plus subscribers back in 2018. But you're a sellout and only care about the Federal Reserve note. Have fun selling your soul for a paycheck. I don't know how long you have been watching me, but it seems like I have talked about like the strong dollar for a while. Like I've talked about dollar milkshake theory. I've talked about strong dollar. I've talked to like Dr. Lacey Hunt stuff. I mean, deflation and strong dollar is something that I have thought about coming into the future for a while. After you read a lot of the Federal Reserve speeches and notes and stuff, you realize they are not concerned about inflation. Like they are trying to figure out how to get inflation, and they figured it out. If they just not ship anything around the world, everybody will start paying a higher price for it and call it, you know, inflation and blame it on the Fed. But I don't think it was that, you know. I mean, it had a lot to do with what the Fed action, obviously. I mean, that's not like, it would be delusional to think that it wasn't, but I have more of a belief that it was a supply chain constraint on this. So, okay, I really got to go. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.